The Happy Warrior Podcast. Conservative commentary on the news of the day from a more positive perspective.
Hello everyone, it's good to be here with all of you today. I am your host, Happy Warrior Pete. This is the Happy Warrior Podcast. It's so good to be here with all of you. I apologize if I sound a little off. A bit of crud and cough is in the air, and it's going through everyone and everywhere. Everyone's catching it. It's nasty, terrible thing. It's good to know, though, that disease is not transmittable over the airwaves, so you will not have to worry about this. So I apologize if I clear my throat a lot. I'm trying really hard not to. I'm trying to keep cough drops out of my mouth and just, try to keep this nice, keep this audio clean. I have a good show for all of you here today. I'm excited to get rip-roaring right into it. And I think I will. I think I will skip the pleasantries, but thank you to all of you who have been commenting on the podcast. I read out the comments on Facebook and Twitter and email. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at getting back to people, but I do read them, so I just wanted to let you know. Thank you. I want to start today about cowardice. Cowardice and bravery. And what does that mean in the year 2019 to someone like myself, to someone like you? To people who live in the United States of America and are interested in what happens to our country. There's something going on. It's called the culture war. And the culture war, to many of us, just looks like a nasty, nasty mess that we just don't want to be any part of, right? To someone on the ground, it kind of looks like this. It's like the people on the left, they're like little tiny barking dogs, like, racist, homophobe, bigot, you hate POC, social justice. And then you have the right, and they're going, maybe they're a little bigger dog, but they're still kind of yappy. They're like, you're Marxist. Facts don't care about your feelings. Trump. And that's what it looks like to people on the ground, especially if you have your head in the sand. And I get that. I wish that's where I could be. But here's the fact of the matter. In the year 2019, if you care about the outcome of the United States of America and its role in the now and into the future and Western society in general, if you believe in freedom, if you believe in liberty, if you want people to be allowed to do what they want to do in relative peace and security, as Thomas Jefferson would say, as long as he doesn't break my back or steal from my wallet, I don't care what he's doing. That's a paraphrase. That's obviously not a direct quote. Thomas Jefferson just wasn't as pithy as I am. But the truth of the matter is, if you are interested in those things, if you are interested in what makes the United States of America great, its freedoms and its people to be allowed to live in peace in a civil society, if you care about that, you can't keep your head in the hole in the ground like an ostrich anymore. You just can't do it. Because at this point, nothing is sacred anymore. We are living in a cultural total war where nothing is sacred. There is nothing the social justice left will not put their hands into. There is not a cookie jar that will not get a greasy, grimy leftist hand just slamming all the hand oily globs all over your cookies. And you'll be like, get out of my house. I never invited you here. Be like, we don't care. Social justice. Okay? There's nothing. If it doesn't matter. If it's comics, it doesn't matter. Look it up. Comicsgate, look it up. What Marvel in particular, what's happened over there is it's a monstrosity. Doesn't matter if it's Star Wars, Last Jedi. Doesn't matter if Doctor Who. Just look at the newest season of Doctor Who. That's an abomination. A boring abomination. Doesn't matter if it's video games. That was Gamergate, and I'm not a huge seller into that, but that came out of that. People were beginning to notice that politics were being injected in their games. And they didn't want to have a part of it. And when they didn't want a part of it, many of the video game companies, and particularly those quote-unquote video game journalists, threw a hissy fit. And there's nothing. There's no movie, no music, nowhere in academia. Now, not even in our churches are we allowed to hide away from the culture war. And that's the problem, right? Anywhere we go in modern-day America in 2019, the culture war is putting its slimy hand into our homes. We're not able to be left alone. And so I'm telling you, if you care about the future if you care about the civil society and being left in relative peace and being able to do your dang own thing and let the guy next to you do his own dang thing, and that's fine. If you want that, then you can't be silent. I don't like young adult fiction books. I never have. Harry Potter's about it. Otherwise, they're just lousy. They're terrible. They're terrible books. They really are. I hate young adult fiction. But as a person with a background in education, as someone that is interested in education, as an education activist, as some of my brethren would say, I decide, hey, what are they kids reading these days? And, and I do love a good fancy book in particular. There was this book series coming out, no longer, and it was going to be similar to this book series called Dragon Age, which that's what the video game series is based on. They are really good. They're my besides like Tolkien, modern day fantasy. Those were my favorite books. And this was looking similar. This was going to be a fantasy series that was a spin on the story of Anastasia. It was going to have blood magic. I mean, it had all kinds of cool things going for it. The first book was about to come out this year, Blood Heir. It had a trilogy. The author had a signed deal, multi-millions of dollars. It was looking good. Well, it just decided to come out this week to people who actually gave a crap of what she was writing that, no, the book is not coming out. And this is too bad. Amelia Wen Zhao is an amazing person. She is one of these people that pulls yourself up by the bootstraps. She immigrated from China when she was 18. She became a big person in the finance world. She makes big bucks. She does this writing thing on the side for fun. It's a hobby. It's a passion. She, when she got hired, was part of this festival that talked about POC writers. And POC is social justice terminology that means people of color. POC takes people of color and it puts them on this pedestal where, it's the intersectionality triangle, and the less intersectional you are, you're at the bottom. The more POC you are, the higher you are on top. She was part of this. She was even in the part of the social justice. They're saying, oh, she's one of these great writers. Fortunately, it came out that when asked, she said, I've been asked several times why I didn't write a Chinese #Own Voices novel. I don't want to be boxed into the permanent other. I want to write diverse books written by POC to become part of the mainstream. She wanted to write books not just about, Chinese people. She wanted to write books about all people, because all great writers are able to talk about all kinds of different subjects. And someone with a passion in literature, this seems silly. And after that, it came out that there would be slavery in her books, but the slavery wouldn't be based just on race. It would be based on different dynamics, power dynamics, including the magic mechanic that's in her book series. And this was not cool. Not cool. Soon, she was accused that she plagiarized a death scene from the Hunger Games, maybe lifted a line from Tolkien, maybe even got I don't want to get into it. But they were lame. They were very lame suggestions. And really, it was this. She made the social justice culture war mad. When she decided that she wouldn't just write Asian characters in Asian settings, and when she said that, well, I'm going to talk about slavery, but slavery won't be just about color, which, by the way, for the majority of the history of mankind, slavery was not about race. Race is a relatively modern thing. It's in the last 600 years that we moved in the Western world where it's about race. Before that, and even in many parts of the world still today, race is one of the last things to do with it. There are many religion, culture, ethnicity is part of it, but it's more than just that. Okay, it's silly. It's silly. It's a stupid conceit to think that slavery is just based on race. But this is the complaints that went to her. Well, she decided that she would cave. She has a normal day job. She doesn't want to have to deal with the culture war any more than you do. When she has her name typed up on Google, she doesn't want to say this person is, this bigot. Watch out for Amelia Wen Zhao. She's a homophobe, a bigot, a racist. She hates POC, even though she is one. She doesn't want that. She wants a career in finance. She wanted to be loved and write things that people had enjoyed, and that wasn't good enough. And some of these tweets that are with it are just insane. I mean, oh my gosh. I'll just read someone. This is from... Firstly, the little girl in Blood Heir is coded as black, from several descriptions, not just tawny, in comparison to others' complexions. Then there's ways the characters treat her, so clearly she's the darkest, and also coded as special because she has ocean green eyes. And, or here's this one, from Aisha. We need to talk about Blood Heir, because claiming POC solidarity just erases all the anti-black issues with this book that, frankly, make me a hella uncomfortable. Can POC be ignorant toward the struggles of other POC? Of course, and that needs to be fixed. And there were many, many more, and it went on, and it's just awful. It's just awful. And she even came out and says, I am so sorry. She got on her knees. She got on her digital knees and said, I'm sorry. It was never my intention to bring harm to any reader of this valued community, particularly those for whom I seek to write and empower. As such, I decided to ask my publisher not to publish Blood Heir at this time, and they have agreed. I don't wish to clarify, defend, or have anyone defend me. This is not that. This is an apology. With the feedback of the community, I feel this is the right decision. And I'm just reading a part of it. There's more about this, how she's so sorry for the pain about slavery and on, and it's garbage. And Amelia Wen Zhao made the wrong decision. She shouldn't have caved, but I understand why she did, because the clone wants to be on the end of the culture war. Okay, it's bad enough when you have to be subject to see it, but imagine if it was you. Yeah, that would suck. That would really, really suck, and it's going to be very difficult. You have to be a really brave person to stand in your loyals and to stand for what you believe in and stand for your work. And frankly, if you don't think this book thing is going to work out, if you really want your work to be loved, if you have a day job and you don't want to lose your day job, you cave. But what does that mean? Well, it's not just people, the authors. It's not just new POC authors who are writing fantasy novels that Happy Warrior Pete is interested in. This is only the tip of the iceberg. I already mentioned a few of the other things. Comicsgate, Gamergate. Star Wars, Doctor Who, anything and everything in entertainment these days is being touched by social justice warriors in the culture war. And there are a lot of organizations that just don't want to have to deal with it. It's not just people, it's not just Zhao, the author, but it's also organizations that you think would be on fighting in the culture war. I, of course, am now speaking of Christianity. You see, there are a lot of places in Christendom that just do not want to have to deal with politics. And they will capitulate, and they will cave, and they will embarrass themselves, and they will try to say and do it all the right thing. My example I will first go to is this amazing essay by David French. It's called When Christians Are Too Afraid to Hear Ben Shapiro Speak. Now, I like Ben Shapiro overall. I don't agree with him on everything. I think his Hitler baby moment was kind of stupid. I thought it was dumb that he tried to do an advertising, a live speech, in which the vice president was calling him. Whatever. That was his decision. But in this, David French is completely right. A Christian college. See, Ben Shapiro gets canceled all the time. He tries to go give speeches to these colleges across the United States of America, and the college faculty or the students, or both, freak out and try to get it canceled. And we've had this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again over the last 2.5 years. So a Christian college says it's going to have him in. But then, oh no, they get worried. They don't want to have to deal with a fight. Grand Canyon University, they just cancel them anyways because we don't want to have to deal with this stuff. It doesn't matter that Grand Canyon University actually has a strong statement in support of academic freedom, where it says critical thought, open dialogue, and a fair presentation of all major views is vital to higher education, but is indispensable for genuinely Christian instruction. Now, these values that Grand Canyon University stands for are excellent. They are awesome. Every university should have those. Every university should stand for freedom of speech and ideas and try to give their students a balanced education. But when put to the metal, they caved. when it probably mattered most, they caved. And they caved because they don't want to have to deal with the fight. They don't want to have to be in this culture war. They don't want activists throwing dead cats on their front lawns. They don't want to be doxxed. They don't want their students to be bad named. They don't want to end up on, worst colleges in the United States list. They don't want to have to deal with any of that. All that ugly stuff that the left brings in the culture war, they just didn't want to have to deal with it. They caved and they were cowards. Yeah, that's the word for it. Cowardice. And they were cowards on the idea of a presenter that they fundamentally agree with coming to speak with them. So what does it mean if they're going to cave on this? Who then is going to stand up for those beliefs that they said their school espouses? These last few weeks, this last month, I've talked about issues that are greatly important, that are social in nature, and that we cannot give any ground on. Transgenderism. Children and transgenderism, I should say. Abortion, particularly late-term abortion. Issues about the rights of due process that you and every red-blooded American is born with, according to the Constitution, according to the Declaration of Independence. These things that are very basic and that make our lives fundamental. That parents are allowed to raise their children according to their dictates of their beliefs. That life is sacred. That when we end up in a court of law, that there will be certain rights and liberties that we will be entitled to. Due process. These are fundamental underpinnings of civilization in the United States and the Western world. And all of these things are under attack. And if Christian universities and Christianity in general won't stand for them, who will? If you, the listener, will not stand up in this culture war, who will? Is it my job only? Is it only some loudmouths on the right? Are they supposed to hold everything up? You know as well as I do that where the places that our cultural underpinnings need to be stood up for are at home and in the workplace. They are in the places where loudmouths like myself, like Ben Shapiro, cannot be. The places where the cultural underpinnings that make this country the greatest country in the history of the world, when they need to be stood up for, who will stand up for them if not you? It doesn't matter if it's children and transgender. I had an awful story, about this dad who was trying to protect his kid, and the ex was trying to make the kid a woman. It's just an awful story. I had this other story that came out about this principal who, this Clark County School District principal who wanted kindergartners to consider whether they're transgender. He made them all the teachers share a tip sheet to, quote, create a more gender-inclusive classroom, where they asked the students why they hold certain beliefs and encourage them to question their thinking. They would ask, well, if you're a boy, do you like to play with dolls, or do you like the color pink? Well, then maybe you're a girl. I am not making that up. I wish I was. This is 2019, and that happens today. What about on the issue of abortion? One of the things that bothered me about the abortion fight is how we use euphemisms around it, and how we only ever talk about one half the picture. In the United States, we only talk about the women. We never talk about the men. The men's role in how the abortion happened, the men's role in being father, the men's role in standing for their child and protecting them. And that's just off the equation. We're not allowed to talk about it because the culture war says that only the women in the equation matter, and they should be able to kill that baby any dang time they want. And as we heard this last week from a Virginia governor, if the baby, it's on that table, we'll make it comfortable, and then we'll decide, what will happen to the baby. Maybe we'll kill it. Who knows? And that, I know that sounds insane, but that is the direction the culture war on the left is heading, where things like that are becoming more and more acceptable to say. Thankfully, most of them aren't there yet, but too many of them are leading the way in that direction. It doesn't matter if it's something like as innocuous as assimilation. Do you remember when the melting pot was a good thing and not the equivalent of a 4-letter word? Do you remember when the idea of a melting pot, that we will bring people in the United States of America and we will teach them the things that makes the United States of America great. And we will help them to learn English, and we will help them to learn about our civil society and our wonderful history and our founding documents. And we will try to give them opportunities to learn and grow and become full American citizens. And then they and their children and generations after will be a great part of this country. I was taught that even in my high school years, it was still somewhat okay to say. Now that's wrong too. I have a story about, this was one that we kind of all skipped because some craziness was going on else in the world with Tom Brokaw. Tom Brokaw, who before this was a Presidential Medal of Freedom holder, and after he said this, to the left at least, was considered a KKK Klansman. In fact, a group, after he made certain comments, said, and the group's name is Latino Victory, they called Brokaw, quote, giving credence to white supremacist ideology. All he said was this, quote, the Hispanics should work harder at assimilation. Now, it wasn't the best way to say it, I will be honest, but his idea, essentially what he says was, I don't understand why certain people don't try harder to become a member of our society and our culture. This is not a controversial idea. This is an underpinning. This is one of those underpinnings of the United States of America. That people come from all over the world, no matter their language, no matter their ethnicity, or even their religion. They can become Americans and imbibe American ideas and make our country great. But this is not okay now. Now we have to have equal yet different cultures. And I'm not just talking about we have a little Tokyo. They want the full separation. They want the full thing. To even suggest that people learn English is insane. But that we're told is insane. We're told that is wrong. How can you? How can you even suggest such a thing? And it's funny because with that, they always point out that you know what languages that are in Chicago for ballot assistance? Spanish, Chinese, Hindi. But you know what isn't on it? Italian. But why is that? Why is it that the Italian and Irish don't have their own language spots on the ballots? Why can't we get licenses in Italian or Gaelic? No, we don't have to because these are people that assimilate. And today, the cultures that we bring in, we don't encourage them to do the same. I have nothing against people, by the way, that are Mexican Americans or from China or whatever. I just want them to have all the opportunities and blessings that I have. And I know you get those from assimilating into the American culture. But that, too, now is controversial. All the craziness around the Title IX and all the due process garbage. The New York Times came out with this. And this is insane. When college rapists graduate. Yes, that's very balanced journalism. If they're not held accountable at school, what's to stop them from becoming the villain of another woman's Me Too story once they enter the workforce? This, by the way, is a complete and utter piece of garbage. But that is where we are now in the culture war. If you are in any way for due process, if you say that, people need to be allowed the full rights under the law, that we shouldn't hold one person a higher standard citizen than the other. We shouldn't say, well, this half the country, they get legal rights. This half, they get some, but they don't get all the legal rights. But that is where we're at. When Betsy DeVos wants to push that we have basic due process rights, not even the same as high as you would in criminal court, just civil suit. Just give them at least the rights they would have in a civil suit. This is how could you do this? That's misogyny. That's the same as putting them through rape again. What emotional trauma it is to have them, quote, and here are some of these due process rights that are so awful. The right to cross-examine witnesses. The right to a live hearing. The right to see the evidence against you. An end to investigator-only adjudication in which one person investigates and adjudicates the claims against a student. They want a sexual harassment definition that's consistent with Supreme Court jurisprudence and consistent with statutory law. These are very, very, very basic things. We're talking very, very basic. But these two now are wrong, as said by one half of the culture war, the instigators of the culture war. If we do not stand up now, guys, it will not get better. The fact of the matter is, the left has all the advantages in the culture war. They have the media. They have the schools. They have the popular media, which is probably the most important of all. They have Hollywood. They have entertainment. They have every advantage in the culture war. The right has religion some, but religion is losing more and more impact in people's daily lives. What else does the right have that the left doesn't already have control of? Very few things. So let me tell you, if the left would have its way today, do you think as a country we'd be better off? If, at the very least, if one of the culture war wasn't there to at least provide some kind of anchor so our country doesn't go veering into the stratosphere and we're redoing the French Revolution, what do you think would happen? Some of the stuff that is being put out today, the left is gung-ho about. Some of these ideas are insane. There was an actual piece from Salon that said AOC's 70% billionaire tax is not high enough. 90% is more like it. That will lead to great places, I'm sure. The left is, of course, unfortunately, imbibing more and more anti-Semites. Representative Ilhan Omar is an anti-Semite. I don't know how else if there was such a thing as anti-Semite, it'd be a picture of her. Quote, and maybe I've mentioned this before, but she had this tweet even back in November 2012, that, quote, Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them to see the evil doings of Israel. Hashtag Gaza, hashtag Palestine, hashtag Israel. Yes. She came out this week, besides wanting a 90% tax, she also stands for the Israel BDS movement, which means to boycott all companies that deal with Israel at all. And she says that Israel isn't a democracy. Iran is. So, there you go. That's... yeah, that's totally not an anti-Semite. Before I move forward, I'd like to point out the freest nation for a Muslim man or woman in the Middle East is Israel. Muslims enjoy all the full rights that any Jewish or Christian does in Israel, which is more rights than they have in Saudi Arabia or the AE. You may be walking out like a bajillionaire if you live in Dubai, but you do not have the rights that a poor Muslim man in Israel does. By the way, congratulations, Minnesota. You elected her. You should be very proud of yourselves. I can't believe you're my bordering state some days. It's just insane. Yeah. And this, I don't know what to tell you guys. I know this is a bit of a blitzkrieg. This is like a culture war blitzkrieg. But you guys cannot keep your heads in the ground anymore. You can't be the mushy middle anymore. Look, I have friends and family members that just I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to have to deal with it. Blow it off. I don't have to deal with it. But that's the problem, is you may not want to deal with it, but they want to deal it on you. They don't want to let you just raise your children as you see. They don't want you to live your life as you see fit. That's not good enough anymore. There's no safe haven culturally right now in the United States of America. It doesn't matter anymore. If you care about the fate of this country, I'm telling you, please do what you can every day, at least in small ways. Stand your ground. Don't give ground. Don't give up into this craziness. Don't go with the rest of society off the cliff. All right, well, I'm going to take a quick 30-second break, and we'll be right back with more. Well, I'm back. I have to say, first of all, I am so sorry for all you poor suckers that sat through all the Super Bowl game. Because I just don't get it. I'm not a sports guy. I've never really got it. I watched football back when I was a teenager, spent time with my grandpa, but it was really something I forced myself to do. It's not something I get a lot of enjoyment out of. If I watch the Super Bowl, it's more a thing to do with the family, and you watch for the commercials. And I watched the commercials, and they were just not very funny. There was only like one or two of them that made me chuckle. They were just mostly boring. At worst, they were self-flagellating. You had the one from the Washington Post. They were just like, oh, you guys, please. Why do we have to have politics now? It's football, people. Hey, it's what I said in the last segment. Nothing is sacred anymore, guys. Not even Super Bowl commercials. Nothing. Nothing. I think actually that's why this year the Super Bowl commercials were the most boring I've ever seen them. Was because they just didn't want to be involved in the culture war. I was like, look, let's just play it safe. We don't want to make the people on Twitter and Instagram mad. We don't want woke Tumblr coming after us. Let's just keep people happy. We just had to pay the expected Anheuser-Busch commercial and we're done. It's funny. The guy, Adam Levine from, what's that band? Maroon 5? Yeah, Maroon 5, all the cool kids. Like to talk about. He got in trouble because he didn't inject enough social justice in his number. By his halftime performance just wasn't very good. But apparently he's in trouble because he didn't inject enough social justice into it, which I don't understand why that's a thing. Like, I don't understand the people on the left. They're like, look, this is good, but you know what would make it better? Social justice. I'm just like, it's good. It doesn't need social justice. Why does everything have to be politics with you guys? Can't you just enjoy Star Wars? Why do you need Star Wars plus politics? I don't get it. Whatever. Anyhow, so they complain that he did not have any SJW street cred. So Levin says, no, guys, hear me out. Hear me out. Quote, when we accepted the responsibility to perform at the Super Bowl, I took out my pen and just wrote, some of the words that came to me in that moment eventually made their way onto the incredible lanterns that fly high and low tonight. And I just really want to thank the universe for this opportunity to perform. We thank the universe for this historic opportunity to play in the world's biggest stage. We thank our fans for making our dreams possible, and we thank our critics for always pushing us to do better. One love. And he goes on. It's too much. It's too much. I'm told that this is political. I don't get it. How is this political? One love is supposed to be political? Is this like coded messaging to the social justice warriors? You know how they always say we have dog whistle words on the right? We don't. We're not smart enough for dog whistles. Look, we can't get people to listen to our normal words. Why would we code them? Whatever. One love apparently is a code. I think is a code phrase. I don't get it. Yeah. But anyhow, yes, that is the problem. That is the problem. I guess they wanted him to kneel. I guess they wanted him to rip off his shirt, and he has a tattoo of Bernie Sanders giving a high five to AOC. Like in the back, I like. Oh man, maybe no, and on his nipples are two P's, like Planned Parenthood. Oh my gosh. And then below it is the Bernie Sanders AOC high five. That'd be epic. Yes, he didn't do that, though. And then they're just not happy. Wasn't woke enough, people. Wasn't woke enough. You know who is woke, though? Harold the dog. Harold the dog is the most dang woke dog that ever woke. I love Harold the dog. So enough hard stories. Let's go to some fluff. Let's do some happy, fun fluff. Happy stories make us feel good inside. And there is good inside the world, and that includes dogs. Please don't interject politics into dogs. I guess I did a little bit earlier, but in truth, please don't. Harold is a superhero. How one persistent dog managed to save 6 puppies. And, yeah. Anyhow, the story is basically that Harold is this dog that keeps coming, just came back to the shelter. He was in the shelter for a long time. Family adopted him. It didn't work out, so he was sent back. And they said he just wasn't the right fit. So being back at the shelter means Harold would go on walks with the volunteers. Harold one day is walking with one of his walkers, and the dogs, they're walking past this loading dock. And Harold stops, and you can't get Harold to move. Harold is this golden retriever that can't seem to get adopted. Harold won't move. He says, no, you gotta stay. He goes around, he does the circles. And he just would not leave the side of this truck bed. So the shelter volunteer, after trying to get Harold to go for a while, and the dog just will not move, he goes over to Harold, he moves him aside, and he sees a Tupperware container. And inside the Tupperware container were 6 abandoned puppies. They were still alive. Harold is credited with saving the puppies. He's gathered hundreds of comments and shares on social media calling him the superhero dog. And loads of people want Harold now. I love this story. This is such a good story. You know what? This is another great story. By the way, Harold the Super Dog is awesome. I love him. Harold the Super Dog. All about Harold the Super Dog. Well, here's another cool dog story. This comes out of Thailand. Runner Kim Jira Klong Sanun was 7 miles into a marathon in another place I cannot pronounce in western Thailand when she saw runners dodging a puppy. Stopping at the side of the road, she attempted to coax the trembling puppy over to her. With no houses nearby, she concluded the puppy must have been abandoned. Rather than leaving it behind, she carried it for the next 19 miles, crossing the finish line with the pup in her arms. She later took a picture with it, evidently exhausted after being a passenger on the marathon, curled up on her race number with her medal. And you know what Harold the Superdog and Chambong, I think that's how you pronounce the name of that puppy, you know what they could use? They could use a toilet. And it's here, it is here, the world's first toilet for dogs. Yes, I found this through one of my favorite websites, Mental Floss. Always a good time at Mental Floss. It's called the Inu Box, and it is $696, and is for pre-order on Kickstarter. The toilet helps keep your pup's bladder and kidneys healthy by letting them relieve themselves whenever duty calls. Yes, it's pretty neat. I don't know. You have to take it's kind of like the cross between like a closet and like the opening part of that suitcase area. You know, when you get your suitcase scanned under the X-ray, and it goes through the thing, and you go beep 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 beep. Yeah, that thing. It looks kind of like a mix of those two. Yes, they said you will have to train your dog to use it first. According to the company, the Inu Box's attractive scent is designed to lure dogs onto the platform so they'll mark the spot. And then you do positive reinforcement, and it releases a treat each time your dog uses it. Additional training methods may be needed, though, depending on your dog's personality and behavior. Oh, it's actually pretty. It closes, so then it just kind of looks like this white box with a funny-looking triangle on it. And it looks nice. I like it. They say they have these smart toilets for dogs as well. So if you own a different kind of fur baby, there you go. I don't know why you would, but whatever. That's your decision. Okay, one more animal story. I'll do one more animal story, and we'll move on to some foreign policy things I just kind of want to talk about. They're not really all together. They're kind of a funny mix, but I thought, let's do that. You know, I got a hard stick in the beginning that's together. Let's do a loose affiliation of news stories you probably should know about. But before we go there, this is a crazy story. So there was this, I wanted to call it was like Big Ben. It was this bear book my dad made me read when I was a kid. And this story reminds me of that. A 3-year-old boy lost in North Carolina woods tells his family he hung out with a bear for 2 days. So this 3-year-old boy goes missing for 2 days in the woods in eastern North Carolina. They could not find him. Eventually they did. And when they did, the kid has this story he won't let go. He keeps saying over and over, I hung out with a bear for 2 days. Quote the mom, God sent him a friend to keep him safe. God is a good God. Miracles do happen. Of course, all the bear experts want to poo-poo on this story. Like, it's not even possible. No. And I disagree. I think it's possible. I think animals sometimes can be angels in that way. It's totally possible. I mean, I've had special moments with my own animals that make me think that. You know, it doesn't happen all the time. I don't think animals are constantly changed by their nature, but you can have one-offs, you know, where animals really just are helpful in a special kind of way. So I totally believe this mom. And it's a great story anyways. I mean, they're always going to have the story for their kid, right? About how the bear protected him when he went missing. I'm amazed the mom doesn't get in trouble, though. The kid goes missing for 2 days and had a bear around him. Whatever. All right, well, I need to go get a glass of water and clear my throat. But before we do, I would like to remind you that while this is the Happy Warrior podcast, and it is amazing, there are many other podcasts you might want to check out on the Sioux Empire Podcast Network that's owned and managed by my friend and producer, Robert Mehling. There are many great podcasts I'd recommend you trying out. Zach Dresch podcast is so good. Urban Indians is another great podcast. Or you can do Robert's own podcast, which is the Sioux Empire Podcast, hence the Sioux Empire Podcast Network. All really good stuff. Macabre Grimoire is not really my cup of tea, but maybe you'll enjoy it. You know, they're always trying fun things. You know, I like about the Sioux Empire Podcast Network that there's most of the shows, there's just a sense of fun in them. And so I really enjoy listening to them. And I think you will too. Be sure to check those out if you'd have time. All right, well, quick break. Then we will move to important foreign news stories you probably will have missed, and we'll move on from there. All right, thank you. This is the Happy Warrior Podcast with Happy Warrior Pete. done it a couple times before here on the podcast where I like to cover foreign policy news that is important and that because Americans have their proverbial butts with their heads inside, we just miss. Important news that really does affect the world and will affect us now or eventually in the future. And so I just want to go through these tidbits, just kind of rapid fire, pew, 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 one by one. I want to start with this Mexico. So while we're all talking about what's happening in Venezuela, which is good, there's stuff going on in Mexico, which is not so good. Basically, straws. Okay, straws. Straws is what happened. In Mexico, the pipelines, you know, I've talked about this, but Mexico's basically a kleptocracy. It's loaded with people that are affiliated with the Mexican drug cartels. Huge amounts of violence. Most of the cartels got their training through the Mexican military and through us, unfortunately. And it's just Mexico. Yeah, it's not top notch. Now their new socialist president, he's trying. I'll give him. He is trying, although he may be making things much, much worse. See, they found that there were these straws that were poking out, and that's how they've been described. But basically, there's an oil pipeline, and there are these tiny pipelines that are coming out of it, and they've caused a couple explosions where hundreds have been hurt. And these straws were like 2 miles long. Some of them were 2 miles long. And these were funneling off oil to be sold on the black market. Well, the socialist president, trying to fix this, says, you know what, we're just not going to use the pipeline. We are just not going to use the pipeline. You know what? No pipeline, no problem. That's what I always say. And yes, there we go. Obrador. Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador. Oh, my brother's going to hate me for that. Both of my brothers, they're both fluent in Spanish. Yeah, so President Obrador is a socialist, and he's a bit of a nut because he is just not going to use the pipe anymore. No, they're still going to export oil, but now they're going to use trucks. This is really, really dumb. As I may have told you guys before when we have pipe protests here in the U.S. and South Dakota. Look, guys, the oil's going to flow. It's like the spice. It must flow. And we're either going to do this boat or by train or by truck. And boat, train, and truck are more expensive, and they leak a heck of a lot more. You think of a mess when the oil pipeline breaks. Look at the Valdez, when you have these oil tankers that crash. That's a bigger mess. And Obrador wants them to use trucks. Trucks, and this is the minimum, will be 14 times more expensive than just using a pipeline. And so it has created this gigantic mess. It's just a mess. And socialists, and I'm not even talking about socialism policy. Socialists as an item aren't very good at governing. They're just not very good at it. I don't know, they're just not very good at it. They make really dumb ideas. They ignore the economic realities, and then when people say, this is not going to work, they're like, shoot him, or get rid of him, make him disappear. Now, I'm not saying Obrador's killing people. Other socialists and communists would. Chavez, what was the guy from Cuba? He's dead now. I can't even think of his name. It'll come to me. Castro, there we go. Yeah. They don't like dissension. They don't like being told their ideas are really bad. I mean, it was during the Great Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward in China. The next 10 years where millions of people died because they ignored all the farmers and the economists and everyone that told them, Mao, this is a bad idea. They just killed them. And so it led to millions of people dying from starvation. It's just awful, awful stuff. And that was ineptitude. And socialists have this problem. I'm not saying that people who aren't socialists can't be inept. It's very, very possible. Autocrats of all kinds, in fact, can be inept. But, yeah, this is not going to lead to good things. In fact, if this continues, because they're having now riots in Mexico, and Mexico isn't the reason they got Obrador in is because the Mexicans are tired of the mass violence, and 2018 was worse than 2017, making it one of the most dangerous nations on earth, more dangerous than Iraq and Afghanistan, per capita killings. Yeah, not good. When Trump says we need a border, he is right, because if this thing goes, Venezuela, or if we have where people are trying to escape Mexico in droves of thousands at a time, like we are seeing with these groups of 12,000 who are marching up to the border and want to cross. I think the border wall is justified, at least for that. Put aside the illegal immigration. Let's just say if Mexico decides to have another revolution, and Mexico loves a good revolution. They have a wonderful history of it. Look up Napoleon. Napoleon III's brother, who was a dictator of Mexico for a time. Very interesting stuff. So what's the next story I want to talk about? Well, we're out of the INF Treaty. It was a terrible idea. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. This is a conservative policy wonk. Christmas gift that we've wanted forever, and it finally happened. The problem with the INF, good idea in theory, bad idea in practice. The INF was supposed to make it so the nuclear war wouldn't escalate. The Cold War wouldn't escalate into hot war with nukes. We're saying, well, you guys can only use certain nukes in certain places, certain amount, you have to age them out, yada, yada, yada. The problem was the other side's never kept, America would do our part, and the other side wouldn't. And now that Russia was sending hypersonic missiles to island off Venezuela in the Caribbean, Trump said, we are done with the INF, and now we are out. We are out. I am really happy. This is one of these influences that Bolton has put in, and I love Bolton. We are now out of the INF, which is fantastic. We are now out of UNESCO, which is also fantastic. I am loving this, where we expect actual results in our treaties, in the foreign policy goals that we work on. I like that idea. It's awesome. And I talked about Ilhan Omar, though. What's another thing that is interesting? This report came out that shows that there's ties between terror groups and anti-Israel NGOs. These are the people that want you to boycott Israel completely. And it's very, very interesting that there's this strong connection between terrorist organizations and these groups that are promoting BDS, which is boycott, divestment, and sanction. It's that boycott I was talking about. It's a very interesting report. I think it's fascinating. It's kind of big, though. The report alone is 80 pages. It's, groups that are in there like Hamas and the PLO and like the Liberation Palestine, the PFLP are in it, and all the fun names, all those acronyms that you all love are in it. So yeah, and this is the thing about anti-Semites. They want the BDS, and it's insane. It's insane where they want Israel to not be a thing, and they say because Elon's big part, Omar's big part was like, well, it's a Jewish nation. She was saying that being a Jewish nation is the same thing as being like Soviet Russia. And that's not the truth at all. In fact, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew or not a Jew, and there's one kind of citizen in Israel, okay? Yes, it is the nation of the Jews. It is the Jewish nation, and that's a good thing, because guess what? The Jewish nation stands for these principles of freedom and enlightenment. They have that same philosophical underpinning that the United States of America has. And Ilhan Omar, I'm not sure she really likes that very much. I could get on a bandwagon about Ilhan Omar. She married her brother. Okay, that alone should made her no way able to be a representative. But whatever. No, yeah, she married her brother. No, we do not know if any of the horizontal mambo went on. She says she did it because this was an easy way to get benefits and to get him a green card in the country. I don't know. I don't know why the fetch she did it. It's very weird. Here's the next thing. This is from National Review. They're talking about how Uber is one of these things that, well, besides the PR doesn't seem to be very great, the guys at Uber. But besides that, Uber is one of these technologies that hurts old technology, old industry. The taxi system, the bus system, these are old businesses. These are 19th, 20th century businesses that Uber breaks into, and the elite have a strong incentive to not let Uber in, to not let Uber happen. Sioux Falls didn't even let Uber in. We let in their competitor, Lyft. Whatever. It was silly. Anyhow, Uber all across the dang globe, and places, things like it, including Lyft, are having huge pushback. Madrid just had this 20,000 taxi driver strike, and it's not hardly from anyone. I mean, Turkey banned Uber recently. What was it, last June? Hong Kong, it's looking like they're going to ban Uber. Hungary, Denmark have banned Uber. New York City effectively has banned Uber, and Oregon cities other than Portland. It's fascinating. The people, they don't like it. And that's the thing about creative destruction is a lot of people push back. And I understand. When you're under the wheel of creative destruction, it feels awful. It sucks big time. I know that very personally very well. So I get it. Us here in the journalism industry, we feel the crush of the creative destruction wheel very keenly. But I'm at least wise enough to know that it generally leads to better things in the long run. It hurts, but it's better for everyone. Look, we're better off that we use cars instead of horses. Okay? Yes, it sucked for the people that took care and sold the horses, but in the long run, cars made everyone's lives better. Better for the environment, better for the planet, better for our daily lives. We got Grand Tour, which is one of my favorite TV shows. So yeah, cars are awesome, but it hurt to get there. And this happens every time you have an innovation. There will be pain. And that's why you need a society that's based on principles like the Scotch Enlightenment, where we say, look, we are not going to protect the old technology because it feels good. We want our society to advance. We want our society to grow, and we want to make life better for the poorest among us and the best among us. We want, because that's the thing about technology. The technology changes the lives of everyone, but most especially in the long run, the poor. Okay, the reason that women can work, why we can have both parents working full time, is because of the washing machine, and it's because of the electric stove, and it's because of the electric iron. There used to be, before electricity and these modern inventions, that you had to have someone there full-time to run the house and to do all the chores, and if they weren't there, they just wouldn't happen. But we don't need that anymore because these technologies have made it possible that washing clothes isn't a back-breaking labor. It's just something everyone does on their off time a little bit. Didn't used to be that way. And technology is wonderful. It's wonderful. I love innovation technology. And this is the Scotch Enlightenment. Big principles allow these kind of things happen. To eat the pain, to suffer it for a time because you know it will lead to better things. But places that don't have this, they want to protect those old industries. They want to protect the people that are going through the pain, even though it might be good for them and their future generations. And that's what's happening all across the planet with Uber and Lyft being a amazing example of that. Just amazing example of that. Here's one thing though. And it's not just this though. Okay, so people and society needs to adapt to new technology too. Now think about this. Think about how society we have the printing. So say we're back at the beginning of the Renaissance. We have the Gutenberg Bible. We have the printing press. Now society needs to know what the fetch to do with that thing, right? And we need to know how are we going to incorporate this into our daily lives. Well, now everyone can have a Bible. There's a family Bible. Now, we advance this to today, and with education, we're seeing people trying to put the internet into everything, right? We're trying to make education better and use these things. But also not just putting something into routine, but also how to use it responsibly. Okay, people can have cars, but they can't just do whatever the fetch they like with cars. You can't just drive on your neighbor's lawn. There are some rules, and we develop these rules. We adjust to the creative destruction. Well, in Britain, they're leading the way on switching off screens for children, and this will come to the U.S., and I don't know as of now if it's warranted or not because the research is kind of, it's a little wiggly. It's not exactly sure because we don't know how much is too much. We know that kids can have too much screen time because you only get 24 hours a day, too much time on the screen, and the screen, the way Britain is, this isn't the argument Britain's making, but what I'm saying is you have too much time on the screen. Kids don't have real world time. They don't get to spend time with mom and dad. They don't get to learn life lessons, build responsibility, build relationships, handle normal life. Britain is saying, well, kids that kill themselves use screens a lot. Ergo, let's limit them to 2 hours a day. Now they'll lessen the possibility they kill themselves. It's like, we'll just reduce the time where they get exposed to that evil radioactive toxin that is the internet. It's like, on principle, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay. We'll just burn them for 2 hours. That's okay. We won't burn them for the full 8. We'll just limit it at 2. That doesn't make a lot. Whatever, Britain. But yeah, Britain is now is promoting and is really looking into implementing a 2-hour limit on children's screen time. There are people that are saying that even for adults that this probably is needed. And I think this is naturally going to happen is people are going to learn we have to have responsibility. Look, Netflix binging is awesome, but if you binge Netflix every day of your life is going to be pretty dang hollow. You won't gain new skills. You may learn some, especially if you watch documentaries, but you're not going to be like much greater person. So you have to use responsibility. Look, we have Steam, we have video games. We can play video games till the sun goes down and comes up, but that doesn't mean my life's going to be so much better with that. Unless I get a pro gamer contract, then maybe. But still, you have to have a limit. You have to have self-control. And that's kind of what we're seeing here now. We are past this phase with technology where it's shiny and everything it does is wonderful. When you first have a baby and they go poop and it's everything the baby does is awesome. It's so cute, the baby. Fast forward 6 months. Not so much. Like, you still love the kid, but the screaming, it's not as cute anymore. I think that's kind of what we're seeing now in technology is the shyness come off it, and now we're trying to learn how to responsibly manage it better. But here's another thing that scares me about technology is how behind the U.S. is militarily to Russia and China in particular, but Russia as well. China has now just tested the world's most powerful naval gun. And U.S. intelligence says it will be ready for warfare by 2025. And this isn't the only place. Because the Bush and Obama administration, well, this started with Clinton. Because after the Cold War, led by Clinton, but also Bush and Obama, we cut our military, we quartered it, we decimated it. And now we are not only behind on the size of our fleets, our naval fleet is woefully inadequate if we end up in a war with one of them, let alone those two work together. Our technology is really old. We're flying some planes that are 40, 50 years old. Okay, our technology is woefully behind. And this is a topic maybe, Robert, if you're listening, we should do an episode on, is how do we get America's foreign power, that machine that us win World War II. How can we get that going again? How can we get that up and moving? That'd be a great subject to do a whole episode on. But yeah, we are behind. The gun in particular is electromagnetic railgun, which is pretty cool, I gotta say. But yeah, we're behind, and China does cheat, by the way. I mean, we've talked about China is a terrible. They just steal all the day long, and they really just do not care. They're like, we steal, so what? You can do something about it. Yeah, that's what I thought. And that's basically it. This isn't a foreign policy story per se, but it is hilarious. Ariana Grande, who is a singer, that's all I got for you. She's a singer. She decided she wanted to get a tattoo for her new hit single music video called 7 Rings. She says, I'm going to go to Japan and I will get a tattoo in Japanese that says 7 Rings. I don't know who she gets. See, I almost want to believe that this was on purpose, but her tattoo did not say 7 rings. In kanji, it said... Maybe this is a bit of Schadenfreude on my part, but it said... it said charcoal grill. Yeah. It said barbecue grill. Oh my gosh. Yeah, basically her hand said barbecue on it. It wasn't even well done. It was like a first draft of a tattoo. My understanding is for tattoos is you want someone that's very experienced that can draft it and then does the work on it. And it doesn't. It seems like she got like some drunken tattoo from a first timer somewhere. I don't get tattoos. It's great. Well, she got in trouble for this, so she pulled her Instagram up and she says, "Well, we had to fix this. First line. Barbecue grill." So she adds another line. It's a symbol and then a heart. And her Instagram point, their fix turned it into rip tiny the fix was, now it says tiny charcoal grill I love. Or I think she was trying to make it read, because you read Japanese right to left, I love tiny charcoal grill. It's very weird. And her Instagram post says, "Miss you, man, rip tiny charcoal grill." But as everyone has pointed out, it's still there. Yes, forever now, Ariana Grande will have a tattoo that says, "I love tiny barbecue grills." I love tiny barbecue grills too. They're the best. Tiny barbecue grill love forever. Oh, That's fantastic. I talked about straws earlier with Mexico. Well, this is you guys, when you pass laws for things you want to control, and I'm talking people on the right as well, the compassionate conservative types. When you pass laws that you want to ban something, you do realize someone actually has to enforce that, right? Someone has to walk around with a gun on their belt and handcuffs and say, hey, if you don't obey the law, I'm going to take you to jail. And if you don't go with them willingly, then bang, bang, okay? Yeah, that's called enforcement of law. That's when you pass a law, you're essentially passing something under the power of a gun. If you don't like guns, maybe you shouldn't try to pass crazy laws. Just want to point it out. That's my very libertarian side speaking, by the way. I didn't know if you noticed that. And yeah, so there was this great article, and it was in the Washington Post and a couple other places. I think Chicago Times had one, a great one too, where they went with the official D.C., Washington, D.C. plastic straw cup. Yes, this individual gets paid $60,000 a year to enforce the city's straw ban. I think he is one of 3. He just goes from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant and checks to see if their straws float and if they're made of plastic. I don't quite understand why you have to check them if they float. I read the story twice. I'm like, I don't understand why you have to check if it floats. I guess if it floats, that means it's plastic? I don't understand that exactly. It's funny, even the story it says this guy, we grumbled when the guy was there. He said, quote, one customer waiting for his lunch decried the ban as stupid. What is this, California now? Said one customer who declined to be identified. All these laws are just spreading from California. Everything is getting taken away from us, man. This is so stupid. Yes, it is. He's a little wrong though, because San Francisco and Seattle, I think, started the same ban like around the same time. I don't think it's totally. It is coming out of California, but not just California. But there you go. This is the job for you if you want everyone to hate you in your life. Go be the plastic straw policeman. That's a great job. Well, let's move on to something that's happy and funny, and then something silly. So these are 2 more foreign policy stories. This is from the magazine Travel and Leisure. I did not know this was a problem, but it appears that there is a new invader in Paris, France, and they are big and tall and fluffy and brown. And they are vicious, and they will refuse to move unless you hug them. Yes, I am talking about the giant teddy bear invasion of 2019. Yes, all over. In the neighborhood of Les Gobelins, giant teddy bears are popping up everywhere. They're popping up like dandelions. They're like, poof, and a giant teddy bear. I have one in my closets. My brother James and his wife, and it's very soft. I love it. I have pictures of this, and they're just teddy bears everywhere. They just replaced all the Parisian citizens with teddy bears. You will visit Paris now. This is what happened. This is what the Yellow Vest riot led to. The people are like, we're done with these French people. Let's just replace them with something that doesn't complain. We'll replace them with teddy bears. No one will notice. Oh, France is so lovely this time of year. Yes, I know. It is. The people here are so quiet. Yes, teddy bears. They even have this picture of this entire apartment building. Every window is a teddy bear. It's great. Oh my gosh. Yes, no one's actually sure why this is happening. But these teddy bears are being just left everywhere. And they'll be like, this one is like they're eating at a diner and a cafe. And this one, there's one reading a map at the subway. And here's one on a laptop. they're just everywhere. Yes, it's pretty great. I like it. What's a good last story? Let's do this one. One more foreign policy story. And then to my last segment of the day where I what's the word I'm looking for? Yammer? I yammer your ears off about Star Wars. Before I get to that, if you live in the UK and you're listening to this podcast, you're awesome. Tell all your British buddies, please. And if you're listening to this, though, please don't buy a hammer. Yes, buying a hammer is not a good idea in Britain. Remember, they banned knives, butter knives, screwdrivers, all kinds of fun, strange things. Well, they added to that list hammers. Yes, it is now, if you buy a hammer, you might be put on the counterterrorism policing unit's list. Quote from the counterterrorism policing UK. I think this is Instagram. Look again. It could save lives. If you see something... Oh, I should do this in British accent. Hello, mate. No, that was Australian. I look again. It could save lives. If you see something suspicious, like someone buying knives, hammers, and other objects that could be used to cause harm. ACT. Reporting it won't ruin lives, but it might save them. You know, I cannot do a British accent when I want to do a British accent. I have listened to thousands of hours of Doctor Who audio and episodes, and I, for the life of me, cannot do a British accent when I need to do one. I will not be hired to work on some British show because to be a character on a British show. They don't do that. You know how, that's one, you know, if I have something that really gets my grill is all these British actors hired to play Americans, and they're just everywhere. The other day I found out that Maggie from The Walking Dead is a British actress. I'm just like, what is this? What is this? All our superheroes are British actors. All our zombie killers are British actors, or Australians like Rick. Just ridiculous. Alright, well, my throat is getting a little parched, so I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll do our final segment, and let me wax eloquent about one of my favorite subjects in the whole world, that is Star Wars.
What's on? House blown, dreaming was wrong, and time she rolling on, and parties beat goes on. Don't tell me what you want, don't tell me what you need, don't tell me what you want, don't tell me what you need.
Got to say that one aspect of the culture war I think we might have a little bit of healing, if I am reading the tea leaves right, is Star Wars. What I've been reading lately, because Star Wars, if you don't know, Disney just had their financial revenue report, the financial report. They have to tell their investors, and basically the report says, yeah, Star Wars ain't making us the money anymore. And yeah, of all the divisions that didn't make money, all the divisions at Disney made money except for one. Well, two-ish. One, it was the division in charge of Marvel Comics and Disney merchandise. And they blamed it on the Marvel Comics and Star Wars merchandise, which are not selling at all. None. I mean, they lost money big time. And this is the fault of Last Jedi and the fault of just being so out there in the culture war all the time that just no one wants to buy your dang merchandise. Us nerds like what we like, and stop trying to force us to be woke. We don't want it. Just let us buy our Darth Vader merchandise and our TARDIS coffee holders in peace, please. Thank you. Anyhow, so Disney seems to be learning from this. From everything I can tell, J.J. Abrams was told by Disney, you gotta fix the dang sack of garbage mess that your dog got into it and it ripped the bag of shreds, and now there's there's week-old Chinese containers all over the living room floor, and no one wants to visit anymore. You need to fix it. And they gave the job to J.J. Abrams, and everything I've read, all the leaks that we've gotten so far, is he is trying to fix this. He is going back to the good stuff. I'm seeing lots of things about Darth Vader in it. I'm seeing lots of things about Luke being in it. I think they're going to fix the mistake with Snoke. It is looking good. I hope. I mean, at least The Force Awakens was a watchable movie. Last Jedi, as a movie goes, was just a mess. And I'm really hoping. And on top of that, it looks like Disney is not making any more woke stuff. We don't need to know about Han Solo's first woke black ex-wife. We don't need to know about that. We're done with that. Now they're coming out with a bunch of one-shot comics, and they're calling this Star Wars The Age of Rebellion. And they're going to give us 10 one-shot comics about different characters in the original movies. And all the new toys, all the new books, all the new projects that are coming out are based on old Star Wars. They're either the original trilogy or they're prequels. And this is awesome. I love that stuff. When Force Awakens came out, and they came out with all this new Star Wars merchandise, I said, Mom, I told my family, she wasn't the one, I told a bunch of family, look, if you're going to buy me a present for Christmas, you can get Star Wars stuff, but do not buy anything from the new movies. And I'm proud to say I do not own any of the t-shirts for the new movies. They just have stuff from the old ones. Because I'm a true member of the Star Wars fandom. I know it is a divided fandom these days, and that's why Disney has lost money on it since The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi made lots of money. Everyone wanted to see it, but no one wanted to buy the toys or the merchandise, and no one wanted to go to Solo. And Solo actually was a pretty good movie. I watched it again recently. That actually holds up pretty well. It's not as good as... Well, I can't even think of the name of the movie. But anyhow, it's not as good as the original 6, but as a Star Wars product, it's pretty good. I liked it overall. But unfortunately, we won't get any more of what was going to be a Han Solo trilogy, which is too bad. I was interested in seeing what they were going to do with Darth Maul. Spoilers. But that's too bad. Now, one of the things I am a little nervous, if I had to tell you something, is that Galaxy's Edge is coming out. What is Galaxy's Edge? Galaxy's Edge is Star Wars Land. It's going to be part of some of their theme parks, and it will be all about Star Wars. And you'll see Star Wars characters next to Mickey Mouse characters. They're coming out with a bunch of books and some comics that basically all take place on Batuu, which is where Galaxy Edge is themed to be. People are saying that the newest movie will probably be taking place on Batuu or referencing Batuu quite a bit. The 3 books they're coming out with, one is a novel, one is a lore book called Myths and Fables, and one is a cookbook. I want to go to Batuu because I have this cookbook. Yes. I'm sure that one will sell like hotcakes. Yes, the book will include Blue Bantha Buttermilk Biscuits, Blue Bespin Breakfast Bars, Blue Puff Cubes, Bantha Butter Pancakes, and Glow Blue Noodles are some of the hits you can make from the cookbook. That's going to be awesome. That's so much to look forward to. All right. A couple more things I want to talk about Star Wars. Now that you're stuck here with me. People are turning around to like the prequels. I always liked the prequels. And I like the original trilogy and the prequels. My favorite movie is The Revenge of the Sith, and then it's Empire Strikes Back. And they're pretty close. And it's coming out now that we've had the awful Last Jedi. People are looking back at the prequels. They're like, you know what? These weren't bad. Yeah, they weren't exactly what we thought we wanted. They were still pretty good. They were pretty original, and they're definitely part of an arc, a story arc by George Lucas. This is definitely part of the same product. You may not have liked some of the stuff with Jar Jar Binks. I get that. But overall, people are warming up to it, and it's great. You know, Ewan McGregor even came out and says, I am really happy about this. I'm really happy that people are turning around and learning to like these movies that I always knew was awesome. The amazing Ewan McGregor, who played Ben Kenobi, always liked the prequels, and I'm happy that people are doing it. Here, I'll even read the quote. This is from Vanity Fair. It says, George Lucas wanted to do something very different with the prequels. That's why people feel cheated. It was upsetting when people would laugh and joke about it. Now, many years later, the prequels mean a lot to the generation that were kids then. So from smirking, cynical opinions, now I'm getting feedback from the kids they were made for. I'm really happy about it. This is awesome. You know, what's awesome is the guy that played Jar Jar Binks, and I'll look up the actor's name right now. He got such, and this was the early days of the bad side of outrage culture on the internet. Ahmed Best, because of his portrayal in Jar Jar Binks, he tried to commit suicide. He had really bad depression. Now he is getting appreciated for his work. That was like a sleeper, like a beginning sleeper move in the outrage war. The outrage wars was the attack on Ahmed Best. That was before Twitter and Facebook. That was what was then just email, forums, AOL. Anyhow, yeah, but he's being appreciated now too. I'm really happy about this, that people are coming around seeing what an amazing movie Revenge of the Sith is. It's just an incredible movie. It is incredible. Attack of the Clones, not great. It's probably the worst of the 6. And I like Phantom Menace. But Revenge of the Sith. The Revenge of the Sith is a piece of art. Okay, it needs to be appreciated. It is a piece of art. It is amazing. It's like the Mona Lisa of Star Wars movies. Anyhow, there's this thing going on, and you may have heard of it. It's called the Star Wars Marvel Cinematic Paradox. And Esquire sums it pretty well. Basically, the problem is Peter Parker in Spider-Man Homecoming is a giant Star Wars super nerd. Well, he's a nerd of a bunch of older stuff, and they make cute little jokes about that, but they set it up that he's a big fan of Star Wars. So, being a big fan of Star Wars, he, of course, knows Samuel L. Jackson is the Jedi Master Mace Windu. One of the greatest of the Jedi. Maybe the best warrior next to the main two. Obi-Wan and Anakin. Anyhow. Well, so in the trailer for the new movie, the new Spider-Man movie, which takes place after the Infinity War sequel, called Spider-Man Far From Home, he meets Nick Fury officially for the first time, and he makes a comment in the trailer that, hey, this guy looks like Mace Windu from Star Wars. With this, this accidentally created a giant paradox, because here's the question, guys. If Star Wars exists as a fictional property in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then who plays Mace Windu in this property if it isn't Samuel L. Jackson? See, the paradox is, if it's Samuel L. Jackson, if this guy looks like Samuel L. Jackson, and Samuel L. Jackson plays Mace Windu, isn't that a problem? So people have now suggested to fix this, that maybe Samuel L. Jackson does actually exist in the MCU. Mace Windu is played by someone else, and they just kind of look like each other. Also, some people are theorizing that the prequel movies never happened in the MCU, but that doesn't make any sense if he makes a comment like that. It's a really annoying paradox. It's very circular, and it is annoyance. The MCU is amazing. Paul Feig, I don't like all the movies, but Paul Feig has made it now. I don't know how many more. We're 20 plus movies now. We're heading towards 30 movies, and he has made it so these things fit together. Not quite like Lego brick, like close fit, but pretty dang close. I mean, there's no other cinematic franchise that keeps the continuity as clean as this movie series does. And that's incredible. Someone said, so well, what does this mean if he meets Thor's ex-girlfriend? That's a good point. Padme, all right? What else? Star Wars. I could talk about Alec Guinness. I could talk about Disney trying to turn Darth Vader into something he's not. I should have to get a coin or something. I have time for both. Let's do the fun one first. Alec Guinness. So Alec Guinness played Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sir Alec Guinness, before Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's passed away, but was an incredible actor. A very, very talented actor. And I just love this. I love this. So when he's recording Star Wars, he doesn't really know what's going on. He doesn't understand the dialogue, doesn't understand the plot. It just seems kind of hokey. And I love all this stuff he says. I'm just gonna read from the letter, okay? He says in this letter, I think he's writing it to his wife. He says, part of it, he says, I must off to studio and work with a dwarf. Very sweet. And he has to wash in the bidet. And your fellow countrymen, Mark Hamill and Tennyson. That can't be right. Ford? Ellison? No. Well, a rangy, languid young man who was probably intelligent and amusing, but oh, goodness, they make me feel 90 and treat me as if I were 106. Love, Alec. P.S. Harrison Ford. Ever heard of him? I love it. So great. He says, new rubbish dialogue reaches me every other day on wedges of pink paper, and none of it makes my character clear or even bearable. I love it. It's actually, the letter is very well written. Sir Alec Guinness was one of these actors that was like the total work. You know, you don't just act, but you're also a writer and you're a producer, and you know philosophy and you know the history of art and literature. He's like one of these great Shakespearean actors. We don't have a lot of them anymore, but there's some of them still do exist, and he was one of them. And Sir Alec Guinness is an incredible actor. His work in Star Wars is great. But it's funny that that's what most people know him from. To me, that's where he has my heart. I just love him in that. I love the character of Obi-Wan. But Alec Guinness, this letter is so lovable. I'm trying to keep my outline really short today, but I will include this in it. So if you want to read the letter yourself, it is lovely. It makes you really appreciate the man in a whole new way. So here's what's what grinds my gears. Here's what grinds my gears is anti-heroes. I'm sick of them. And there's this awesome screen rant by Alex Ledbetter, and I 110% agree with him. And basically, to sum this up, he's like, I'm sick of anti-heroes. And Disney's trying to turn Darth Vader into anti-hero, and that breaks the character of Darth Vader. And he's right. I just watched the second season of Punisher, and I noticed this too. I saw this in season 1, where they wanted Punisher to be Punisher, but they also wanted him to be an anti-hero hero. Anti-heroes in comics are different than in movies. In the comics, anti-heroes were like often at least half, if not more, on the side of villainy than they were good guys. Sometimes they were a bit of good guys, but if they were good guys, they did it the worst way you can think of. And Punisher season 2, they've tried to do this. They've really, they haven't tried to do this. They tried to make him almost a hero, a naughty hero. And that's the new hero of today. The cool people of yesterday, the heroes like Luke Skywalker, who are relatively squeaky clean. Maybe they're naive, but they're relatively good people trying to do things the good way. Remember Luke, against even his Jedi Masters and everyone's idea, tried to turn Vader to the light. Okay, this is one of the reasons why I hate Last Jedi, is it turns us on his head, where Luke, who sacrificed himself, putting himself in mortal peril to try to turn his father back to the good, would just, kill a kid in his sleep because I maybe got bad feelings of him one day? Just ridiculous. But this is a thing that's being pushed out now, is that Darth Vader, they think they're going to turn Darth Vader into anti-hero. And I don't know, some things from the recent Darth Vader comics kind of make you think this, but in some ways Darth Vader is kind of like a Che Guevara character almost, where to certain people, through a certain lens, he does look like a good guy. I mean, there's a great argument to be made, and I can't think of the writer's name, but that the Empire were the good guys. In Darth Vader, at least his troops was a hero. And Darth Vader, to restoring stability in that way, could be looked through the lens as a hero. And the PR for the Empire definitely showed him as a hero. But they kind of want to make him an anti-hero, because they can kind of have Darth Vader both be a villain, but a cuddly villain. He says, Disney does this thing where they have villains, but most of their villains lately are soft villains. Okay, they're misunderstood bad guys, or bad guys with a tragic beginning, and they really aren't all bad. You look at even what they did with like a character like, and this is my uncle's favorite, was the bad guy from Sleeping Beauty. If you remember, they gave her a movie, Maleficent. And in the movie, Maleficent's just misunderstood. Really, Maleficent's just a good guy. You can't have out-and-out bad guys. And this is a thing Disney likes. And they say, well, Disney does this because you can sell a plush of Maleficent, and Maleficent's misunderstood. It's hard to sell a kid a plush of a Maleficent, and Maleficent's a baby killer, or whatever she was up to. It's hard to do that with Darth Vader. I disagree, because Darth Vader toys sell like hotcakes. Are you kidding me? But putting that aside, it's a good argument. Like, I don't know if I agree with the reasoning why Disney may be doing this, but that Disney may be doing this it does make sense. He provides pretty good evidence. I don't like this, where we want anti-heroes to replace what heroes were. An anti-hero needs to be something that's not quite a villain, but not quite a good guy. I don't like these anti-heroes that are stand-in for good guys. I don't like it. It doesn't feel right. The Punisher should not be a good guy, right? That's the Punisher's thing. The Punisher's like, I kill people in revenge, and I kill them the worst way the villains do. But that doesn't make the Punisher a good guy, and he often gets innocent people killed. Okay. And he's almost the opposite of a character like Spider-Man or Batman, I mean, in the Marvel Universe, of course, Spider-Man, not Batman. But where these characters try to beat bad guys, but not the way bad guys were. They try to beat them and stand for what's right, not kill. If they can help it, they try not to kill. But the Punisher is the opposite. He's an anti-hero. Well, Darth Vader, it doesn't work if he's an anti-hero. He has to be a straight-up bad guy. He has to be this Nazi-esque figure, because if he's only an anti-hero and he's good sometimes, then redeeming him doesn't mean very much. And it doesn't mean very much of Luke Skywalker to see that there was still good in him. This idea that you could see, basically, like if I look at Che Guevara, if I look at Hitler, and I can see the good in Hitler and Che Guevara, that's what Luke Skywalker did. And to say that, well, he's just an anti-hero, he's just misunderstood, he's really a good guy to add to much of the galaxy, it doesn't work. It really doesn't. I don't like it. I could go on and on about this, but you guys would get tired. Okay, last thing. Let's do a last thing. So this is a fun article. This doesn't mean anything. It's from Wired. It's the way Superman picks up a building is a physics travesty. You guys see this on the comic and cartoons where he like picks up a building from one angle or maybe from the bottom up. And this guy's like, look, the physics doesn't work. Okay. He says the two problems with this is, number one, it's the pressure is the first problem. You have the size of the building, the pressure of the building, versus the size of Superman's hands. You know, he does an example here that's pretty great where he says, okay, so let's take a building that's, say, 9,000 cubic meters, and say Superman, he's got 15 centimeters on his side. So the pressure of this contact area would be 670 megapascals on those two hands. Yeah, that is a huge amount of pressure. He says certain materials can only take a certain amount of compression strength. If you go past that value, the material breaks or it falls apart or explodes or something else bad. Bricks have a compression strength of 80 MPa, 80 megapascals. Granite has 130, and at 670 megapascals, steel would probably fail too. So it's not even about where he is on the building, just that he's putting pressure anywhere in the building, that's holding it up. It would cause the building to break. He says, you want to lift this building, but you would instead just fly right through it. It'd be trying to pick up a cupcake with a toothpick. Well, see, it doesn't work. He says, even if Superman lifts at the center of the building, what pulls up on the edges of the building? It's the other parts of the building, right? So if he's pushing up, but the other parts of the building are pushing down. The gravitational force is working against you. So he gets really complicated, even as pictures in this article from Wired. Let's give the guy credit who does this. Rhett Allen. It's pretty fantastic. He gets pretty complicated. And he does this thing where he has like a bunch of corks with wire attached to a safety pin. And basically, like, you stretch out the corks, their weights, it doesn't work. It's very interesting. Anyway, I wondered this too. Superman isn't the only one that does this. Dragon Ball Z had this thing too, where they kind of just like pick something up and it just goes up. But that isn't how physics would work, right? Whatever. I got 30 seconds. Okay, last 30 seconds. The new DC superhero movies are awful. Aquaman, I guess, is okay, I hear. Haven't seen it yet, but all the rest are awful. The Man of Steel trilogy was just goodness gracious bad. Poor Zack Snyder. That last movie was all a mess, and then it happened at the same time when he got kicked off was when his son got killed from suicide, I think. Or was his daughter? Anyhow, it's too bad. Very sad. Well, this has been the Happy Warrior Podcast, people. Thank you very much for watching. Please follow me, if you are not, Facebook. Then follow me on Twitter. And then follow me on Minds.com. I'm Happy Warrior Pete on Minds.com. And I have Instagram. And following on the last there, I have YouTube. I haven't got a YouTube video up this last week. I know I need to get back into that. We're trying to figure out a way to get my health back up so I can get more content out for you guys. Part of making this today's episode is I tried to leave less stuff in the outline so it wouldn't be as hard to create an episode, and we did do that. I hope this episode turned out all right for you and that you enjoyed it. If you like the show, please share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Tell your dog sitter all about it. Spread the word. Spread the news. This is the Happy Word Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to all the soldiers who bled, died, and sacrificed so that we might have our freedoms. And those freedoms are worth a whole lot. God bless you. God bless them. And have a great day.
Thank you for listening. The Happy Warrior Podcast, hosted by Peter Vaughn Pischke, produced by Robert Mehling, a production of the Sioux Empire Podcast Network. Learn more at happy-warrior.net.
「いつだって飛んでるからくたびれた
a production of the SiouxEmpire.com.